Hello everybody and welcome back to the Road Trip Stories. So last time you saw us, Trevor and I were hanging out with this guy named Shawan. We got into a Sonic and we hung out for a couple hours, and then I accidentally ran into a subscriber of mine. After we met him, we got some free pizza, and we headed back to the Desert Donkey OHV to settle down for the night. Now, if you remember, we were staying in Phoenix, Arizona because on the 18th, a friend of ours named Alec was going to be heading to Las Vegas with his family to go hang out with them, and he invited us to go. I got a text while we were in the middle of that meeting with Shawan that said, "Hey Barry, this is Alec. My family got sick and we're not going to be able to actually go. So if you guys still want to go, that's more than fine, but we're not going to be there." Now, Trevor and I were sitting there deciding, do we really want to go? I mean, it's kind of out of the way. We would head all the way up north to Las Vegas and then come back down and then head to Florida. We could just kind of skip it if we wanted to. We don't really need to go to Vegas. While we're hanging out with Shawan and his wife, they were telling stories about them going to Las Vegas and all the fun they had. And I was like, you know what? I've only been once. I would like to go again. What do you say, Trev? And he's like, yeah, we can't miss it. Now, Shawan and his wife heard us say this, and they said, okay, so yes, definitely go, but before you leave Phoenix, Arizona, you need to visit Scottsdale. If you want to see a really wealthy part of town, go to Scottsdale. And also, go to the Scottsdale Mall. It's one of the nicest malls you'll ever see. And I'm sitting there like, I don't know, I've seen a couple malls, you know? But, alright, we'll go. The next morning we wake up and we head to Scottsdale, and they were right. This was definitely one of the nicest malls I'd ever seen. One of the entrances was a giant Apple store, and Apple always overdoes everything. It was nice. It was actually the only store at the entire mall that required you to wear a mask. Everywhere else they didn't care. It was really nice walking through this mall. Trevor and I actually walked around for hours, and eventually I was like, hey Trev, I'm just going to split off. And he was like, yeah, no worries, me too. We'll just kind of meet back up. So I'm walking through all the stores that kind of catch my eye, and basically all of them did. There was this home furnishing store where they were showing off a bunch of different beds and stuff. And I walked in and the guy was like, yeah, so it's all interactive. You just go in every single one of these rooms that we built and, go do whatever you're going to do. Act like it's your house, all yours. It was really cool. Like, you walk in and you can just go lay down and sleep in the bed and turn on and off the lights and stuff. It was really cool. I actually really enjoyed that. So Trevor and I meet back up and we're walking down the hall when we see this electric car exhibit. Now, this wasn't like a Tesla building or anything, and there was a Tesla building or a Tesla room in this mall. But what we had seen was this single-person electric car. Now, I'm sitting there looking at this thing, and there was a young lady there who was telling everybody about this thing. I don't even remember what its name was, and as soon as I see it in the video, I'm going to be like, oh yeah, duh. But either way, she's telling me how far it'll go, how fast it'll go. It does only hold a single person, but really it's mostly a commuter to go from your house to the store, pick up groceries, and it actually had a lot of really cool tech in there. She sat me down inside, and I was playing around in there, and I was like, damn, yeah, this isn't so bad. She notices our cameras and she goes, so are you guys photographers? And I was like, well, technically, I mean, my buddy is. I'm a YouTuber, so I'm actually just taking videos for memories. She's like, oh, a YouTuber, so you must be vlogging or something. And I was like, sure, yeah, that's what yeah. So a few minutes after that goes by and a couple of really obnoxious dudes, one of them is holding a selfie stick with a GoPro on it. He's wearing a Santa hat and a jersey. And then his other little buddy, like this short little midgety guy, they're just being obnoxious, right? And you can tell that they're putting on a vlog, right? They walk up to this car and the little guy is like, check out that whip. Yo, check out that whip. Hey, that's a nice whip. He kept saying it over and over again. He's like, how much is that whip? How much is that thing? And the lady looks over at him and she's like, $40,000. And he goes, is that all? $40,000 for that whip? And he's grabbing his crotch and everything. They're just being completely obnoxious. And I look over at her and I was like, when it comes to vloggers, there are two types of us. And she starts laughing. So Trevor and I leave and we're walking around this mall and just visiting as much as we could. We definitely knew it was worth it to try to see every store, so long as it wasn't just like a Buckle, something like that, American Eagle. Eventually, Trevin starts to get thirsty and he runs into the food court. So I'm walking around up on the top and just kind of checking everything out. When Trevin comes back, he's got this little Jamba Juice with him. And I was like, hey, can I have a sip of that? And he's like, yeah, no worries, here. But the way that he said it, I was like, I take a sip. And I was like, how much was this thing? I might go get myself one. He goes, $8. What? I was like, excuse me? You paid $8 for that? He's like, I already had him make it. And then they told me the price at the end. I was just like, oh, God. This was like a 12-ounce little cup of juice for $8. And it was so funny because every time he took a drink, he would shiver. And then he'd go, that was $1.50. That was 75 cents. So it's about 7 o'clock and we'd basically seen the mall. Trevin and I are sitting there at the van and we're like, all right, is it about time we head to Vegas? And he's like, yeah, let's go. So we drove, I don't even remember, maybe 3 or so, probably longer than that, hours to get up to Vegas. And we didn't actually make it to Vegas. We made it to this little city called Boulder City, which is about 30 minutes to an hour outside of the city of Vegas. We pulled off on a dirt road, found ourselves a nice little camping spot, and we settled down for the night. The next morning, we got up and it was time to hit the strip. We're driving into the city and everything was kind of high energy, you know? We were like, okay, this is where the party starts, you know? As we're driving in, my van, well, I guess I don't really know how to explain it without spoiling it. So let's just say my van stopped and I have a video for you. All right, we made it to the wonderful city of Las Vegas, except, wait, Barry, where's the strip? What are you doing? Well, we were driving down the road and I felt something slip and I was like, what the heck? Did my shoe just come off the pedal? Oh, no. So there's a wire that goes all the way back, the throttle cable, and it just decided to come undone. So we have to go hook that sucker back up. Van life, am I right? It really wasn't that hard of a fix. I got it set back up and we were ready to hit the strip again. Now, before we get there, there's something that I have to tell you. You see, I can be a bit of a pain in the ass, right? And I don't mean to be. It's not something that I'm trying to do. My closest friends, the ones who know me the best, they all say that it seems like I have a really sharp stick and I'm also very good at poking people in the irritation center of their soul. Now again, I don't do this intentionally, I'm just messing around, I'm just having fun. But I started to piss Trevin off, and I need to give you some backstory as to what was going on. So here's an example of what I would do. So we'd be pulled off, parked somewhere in a camping spot, and I had brought a bunch of stuff on the road trip with me, and so had Trevin. And there were certain things that had kind of made a little bit of a mess, like he'd pull some clothes out, and then he'd go to put them back, or he'd just set them in an area, and he'd get to them later, right? And it wasn't a big deal, right? That wasn't a thing, but I would, whenever I'd go and I'd open up the van, I'd open the van, and I'd go, hey, Trevin, see all this shit? And I would do that to him so often that it got to a point where I'd open up the van and I'd go, hey, Trev. And he'd run over and be like, what, all this shit? And I'd be like, yeah. Now, again, I was just playing around, okay? I'm a little ornery sometimes, and I like to mess around, but this started to wear on him as time would go on, because it's kind of the same joke all the time, and he knows that there's little space in this van. Why isn't any of Barry's stuff a problem, right? Either way, there came a point where we're getting into Vegas, and I had Trevin go look on Google Maps to try to find us a spot to park. So he finds this little La Quinta in the area. I stop in there, we pull in, and I park the van. Now, this was in a really shady area, like, and it's not even just the people. Like, I looked around and you can tell, like, the people around this area, yeah, I don't know if I would really trust my van being here for very long. But the hotel we're staying at, it's got bars on the windows, and some of the windows are still broken anyway. They're like little guard spikes around, and I'm sitting there like, is this a safe spot to have our laptop and camera gear and all this stuff, the van just sitting there? Like, I don't know. And I parked it where there were security cameras looking at us, but I was still like, are we sure about this? So we start walking towards the strip and we realize how far away we still are. And that's when I started dicking with Trevin. I was like, man, you could have picked anywhere, right? Why did you pick this place that's so far away and shady as hell? What'd you go ahead and pick this place for? And so I go on Google Maps and I'm looking and I realize that there is a parking garage right next to Circus Circus. And I'm sitting there like, really, Trev? Like, there was a spot right on the strip. We could have parked there. Let's just go there, you know? And I was dicking with him just a little bit. Now, this isn't so important right now, but do remember that I can be a bit of an asshole. So Trevin and I are walking back towards the van, and this was a really shady part of town. There was this guy sitting down on this like cinder block bench, and he looked up and reached his hand out like he wanted some money. And I was like, sorry, man. I wish you well. And I started walking away. And he gets up and he's screaming at Trevin and I like, get back here! You're not walking away from me! And I'm sitting there like, Jesus Christ. And we did walk away. We just like kept on going. We get back to the van and we head on down towards the strip and we park at the Circus Circus parking lot. When we first arrived, we just grabbed our cameras and started walking around the city. We started at Circus Circus since that's where we were, but then we walked outside and we were just kind of looking around Vegas for a while. We did this for a few hours while we were deciding how much money we wanted to spend while we were at Vegas, and we decided that for each of us, $200. That's where we were going to cut ourselves off. And we were going to stay there for 2 days. So I figured 100 the first day and then 100 the second day. And that was basically our plan. Now, I wanted to play blackjack because I don't believe in those money vacuums, or whatever, people call them slot machines. Yeah, those are a scam. So I wanted to play blackjack because you have some better odds. And I wasn't sitting there for too long before I had lost all my money. Maybe an hour and a half. Trevin, on the other hand, in this time, lost money, gained money, and then broke even, which was kind of cool. So he still had all his money left. Now I started to get hungry, so I was like, hey, let's get up and start walking around and maybe find ourselves a place to eat. So we're walking around for a little bit, and we see this place called Senior Frogs. So we stop in and we sit ourselves down. Our waitress was super cool. She was really sweet, really friendly, and she actually shared some insights on not how to win at the casinos, but how to get the waitresses to pay more attention to you so that you get free drinks while you're in there. Trevor and I bought ourselves a beer, we had ourselves some food, and we were just enjoying the time. When the waitress comes back and she takes our empty beer bottles and she says, hey, do you guys want another beer? And I was like, well, I do. Yeah, I do. But I'm not going to buy one if I can go into the casino and get free drinks, right? She goes, hang on a minute. I'll get you guys a couple free shots. Now, Trevin's sitting there like, what? You just got us free shots? How do you do this? How are you getting things for free like this? And I was like, dude, I don't know. I guess I'm a good luck charm, man. You better keep me around. He's like, yeah, I'm going to use the shit out of you. The waitress came back. She gives us the free shots. And I actually was like, hey, can I give you a hug? That's really awesome. She's like, yeah, sure. We went back to the strip and we gambled for, I don't know, not too much longer until Trevin was about done. And then we got back into the van and we started heading down the highway. Now, remember I told you to remember me being a dick. Well, Trevin was guiding us using Google Maps to this spot just outside the city so that we could lay down for the night and not be right in the strip or at like a shady parking lot or something. So I'm headed towards this area and he goes, my phone's dying. And I'm like, man, I turn on the solar every morning. Why do you not charge your phone when the solar's on? And he snaps back and he's like, well, my phone's not dead then. My phone is fully charged then. And I'm like, you say you have this really nice phone with a super battery, and yet it burns out every day. And he's like, yeah, that's because I'm the only one ever using maps. He got mad. See, now I was just having fun. Antagonizing people has always been a favorite proclivity of mine, but this bothered Trevin a lot, and he actually did say, I'm legitimately upset. I'm mad, okay? I was like, okay. All right, I'm just gonna let it be. So we head on over to our spot, we settle down for the night, and the next day we get up, and I was like, hey man, I am sorry that I pissed you off. I know that I can be a little bit of a handful sometimes. And he's like, no, look, that's the thing. I'm not mad anymore. It had just, it kind of reached its peak and I had to let it out and now I'm good. And I was like, okay, cool. See, and that's the important thing. You don't want to go on a road trip with someone who you can rub the wrong way or vice versa, rubs you the wrong way, because you cannot get out of that situation. You have to be with someone who you're tight with, and so that if, and not even if, when things get difficult, you're staying in a confined area with a friend, Like, come on, things are gonna get rough. So you definitely want to make sure that you're gonna be with someone who can take the punches and can give them, and then you guys can both step back and be like, okay, all right, everything's fine. So really glad that I have Trevin as a friend. Now, we knew we wanted to stay in Vegas at least one more day, and we also wanted to see a medieval times style show. So Trevin and I bought some tickets for 5:30. Now, since we had kind of been in close quarters this whole time and haven't really been away from each other, we kind of stayed around for the first maybe 30 minutes of hanging out this second day, and then we decided to split off. So Trevin went his own way, and he actually went to a car museum, and I thought that was really cool. I got to see all the photos that he took. I didn't get to go, but I was walking around the rest of the city that I didn't get to see the day before. I went to Excalibur, I went to New York, New York. They have a chocolate Statue of Liberty in there. I thought that was really neat. And then I went to the M&M Museum that's down there. Really, like, in the center of the strip, there's a bunch of, like, there's a Coke building, an M&M factory, a Snickers factory, and it's really just a store. It's nothing more than, hey, we sell this specific candy bar, and that's basically it. So, not too cool, but on the opposite sides of the strip, they have all the action, which that's where I was trying to get to. So it's about 5 o'clock and I get a text from Trevin. He says, hey, I'm heading to Excalibur right now. We're going to go see the medieval times. Make sure you get there on time. And I was like, oh yeah, that's perfect. I make my way there and we go see the show. Now this was really cool. It wasn't as cool as it could have been, and I'll explain why in a minute, but it was still really cool to watch. As they did their performance, I don't know what they had on their swords, but when their swords would clash against each other, sparks would actually fly off the swords. They had this guy with a flamethrower attached to his arm that actually shot flames like 20 feet out. The thing was set up, and it was really cool. And what was nice about it, too, was while you're sitting there at the medieval times, you have this stewardess who walks up to you and gives you a plate of food. And it's got this, like, full tiny chicken, bones all inside of it, right? You get to eat that. It's got a little pie, you got bread, you've got mashed potatoes, you get a free soda, which is kind of nice. I mean, I say free, the whole event was $60. Either way, the reason it wasn't as cool as it could have been was because we were there during Christmas time, and don't get me wrong, I enjoy a good Christmas story to an extent, but I know for a fact that whatever this story was outside of the holidays was going to be amazing. And every time a holiday shows up and like they mess with a story, it just waters it down, because they're always trying to force like the Christmas spirit and stuff in there. And I'm like, can you stop? Seriously, you're going to throw Christmas spirit in this medieval times situation where jesters and kings are like, get the gifts, it's Jesus' birthday, even though he hasn't been born yet. Like, come on, just do your either way, whatever. I'm not going to complain. I just kind of wished that if I were to gotten one of these experiences, I would have preferred it not be a Christmas version of that experience and just do, like, the play. So there's a point in this play where you're sitting determines what side you're on. So over there was Hungary, there was Germany, there was Russia, there was, and it was all these European countries. And that was really cool because you had this soldier assigned to you. So whenever your soldier was up, going and fighting and stuff, your crowd is cheering while everyone else is booing. They're like, we don't want you to win. It was really cool. I actually really did enjoy this play. I had a great time. Again, I just wish I could have seen the actual play and not this watered down Christmas version. So finally the play's over and Trevin and I are walking around the city and just enjoying the rest of our time that we have. It was really cool because we found this mall, and inside this mall was this giant dome that could it was like a projector dome, so it could turn into whatever it wanted to. And there was a point where it was a big old emoji. There was another point where it was a giant 8-ball. Underneath that was a bar that I would have loved to go to because they had beer pong, except they had giant cups and then you used a basketball. And this family was kind of hoarding the thing, so I wasn't going to go and wait for it, but that would have been neat to experience. So after that, we went back to Treasure Island and we were playing blackjack for a little bit longer. My goal was to win all my money back. I'd lost about $100+ the last night that I was there, and I was like, okay, this night I'm going to get it all back. It was about maybe 30 minutes into us playing when Trevin is like, hey, I'm feeling kind of sick. I'm going to go back to the van and sleep for a little bit. Is that cool? And I was like, yeah, go back. I'm just going to be here, and then whenever I'm done, I'll come meet you. And he's like, perfect. All right, I'll see you. So he takes off, and eventually this couple sits down next to me. They're in their 40s, and they're from somewhere in the UK. I think they actually did say London, which I thought was kind of cool. The reason I don't know is because I was kind of drinking. You know, like they give you free drinks when you're gambling, which is kind of the scheme. You know, you got to start making bigger bets when you do that. But either way, this couple was awesome. They were somehow a really good luck charm. I had gone from maybe about $50 left up to $160 and climbing because they sat down. I don't know what it was, but I was sitting there like, dude, this is going to be blackjack for us. Hit it. And he's like, okay. You know, and it would win. And then he would do the same thing. And then he'd be like, oh, nope, cancel. Don't do this one. Don't do this one. I have a bad feeling. And I was like, okay, I'm staying out of this one. And then they would lose. And I'm sitting there like, damn, dude, we got this. They stand up, they take off, we said our goodbyes, and I lost everything. It was over. And that's fine. You know, you go to Vegas basically to lose money. I mean, I know there are people out there who are like, well, you just didn't play right. You know, I'm a shark, so I kick ass in Vegas. And that's fine. That's fine. That's not why I go. You know, it would be really cool to win a crap load of money. Don't get me wrong. It's on my bucket list. But if I lose $200 in Vegas, all right. I'm here in Vegas. What do I care? You know, that's what it's for. The last few hands I had were actually kind of cool, though. I had $30, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go crazy with this, you know? So I put all the $30 onto the table and was like, all right, this is going to make it or break it. Bam, instantly wins. I get $60 back. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do that again. $30. Bam, I win it back. And I'm like, whoa, hey, I'm kicking ass over here. All of a sudden, the tables turn. And I have, what, $12 left? So I was sitting there like, all right, whatever, all in, $12, $24. I'm like, hell yes, I'm going to do this. So I just threw all in. House took it. All right, well, that's how that goes. You play fast and loose like that, you're going to lose. I stood up, and the lady who was dealing the cards was actually like, hey, are you done? And I was like, yeah, I'm done. She's like, no, you got to play more. And I was like, I don't have money. You got money? She's like, okay, I understand. So I go back to the parking garage, and I see that Trevin is half dead in my van. And I wake him up, and I was like, hey, man, let's get out of here. We drove about 30 minutes, and we found this dirt road. We couldn't actually pull off of the dirt road. There was nowhere really to stop off, so we just sat there right in the middle of this dirt road, and we laid down for the night. After this, the plan was to head back down to Phoenix and then zip on over to Florida. And that was my trip to Vegas. It wasn't too crazy, not like the first time, which I haven't told anybody about, but I will get to those stories another time. And I have to cut this story off right here. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you next time.